Now tonight's blind item revealed. Ripped abs, hard chest, killer smile. It's Ronnie Kroell, a fan fave from Bravo's Make Me a Supermodel.
Wow, what a smile. Talk about somebody who makes you feel like melting butter. And sweet. He's such a real sweetheart. He is talented. He's a model. He's an actor. He's a producer. He's an artist. He is famous. One of his things that he's famous for is from the Bravo show, Make Me a Supermodel. Ronnie Kroell.
Hi, David.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, goodness. With everything that's going on in the world, it's nice to see a friendly face. Let's just put it that way.
My gosh. Well,
my goodness.
la.
Your face is a sight for sore eyes.
Trying to think it. I've heard that for years, and I'm going, so sore eyes. Okay, right, because you keep on looking. You can't keep your eyes off me that they get sore. So, how did you get your looks?
I don't know. Maybe I just you'd have to talk to my parents about that. It's the genetic pool.
Genetic.
I mean, up until COVID hit, I could take some responsibility for it because I was actually working out pretty religiously. Now I just eating my feelings like with the rest of everyone else.
All right. Hello. What were your parents involved in the arts?
Well, not really. No. My dad is a retired auto mechanic, and my mom is a retired senior administrative assistant. She worked for Denoyer Geppert and Ram McNally Map Company. She's also retired now, but she has some artistic sensibilities about her. She loves her arts and crafts, and I think before, she got into doing her administrative work, she wanted to do some interior design work, and she's taken classes to do like stained glass, and she knits and cross stitches and quilts. So she's got I think maybe I got my artistic gene from her.
Right? Yeah, your art is like beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I remember that time that we went to the art gallery and you had everything up there, and I was like, I want that one and this one, that one. God, the list of, what was it? I wrote a list of, Texas tea, which I see is still available, right?
Texas tea is still available, and God Save the Queen is still available, but those are the last two of my 2017 collection.
Right. Ooh, that's good to know. Open Heart, oh my God, Anxious to Please, Still I Rise.
Yeah, that one's a special piece for Black History Month.
Yeah.
That piece I actually, I was working with the Black Lives Matter movement, and I donated that to their cause.
Oh.
I figured, if they wanted to auction it off or just hang it in their office or something, it just didn't feel right to me to sell it.
Right. Well, that's perfect. It's one of my favorite pieces of yours too. It just has it breathes, it has a history, it has just emotion to it. It's great. Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
It's hard asking an artist if they have a favorite because it's like asking a parent which of their kids is their favorite. They'll probably all admit, behind closed doors that they have a favorite, but
right.
I love them all in different ways.
Yeah, yeah.
But if there was one that really spoke to my soul, it's one that's called The Shadow. And I don't think I have a picture of it up on my site right now.
Right.
A friend of mine purchased it, and it was one of the first larger pieces that I did. Up until The Shadow, I was doing like little 9x12s and smaller pieces.
Right.
But I was in my backyard in the summertime, and I was having a conversation with the canvas, and the sun was at just the right spot in the sky where my shadow ended up on the blank canvas. And I said, I have to do something with this. So I outlined my shadow in black ink, in black paint to a T to where my shadow was. And then I worked with primary colors and other mixed media materials and glitter to like bring it to life. But the shadow represented, I think, just my humanity. You know, I think all of us have vice and virtue, and all light casts a shadow. And so just to be human is to be imperfectly perfect. And so when that came to me, when I was having that conversation with that piece, it was just like, I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where it's otherworldly. You don't even necessarily feel like you created it. It was like divinely inspired, and then it came out. That's kind of what I felt like I was channeling in that moment, you know.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Where did you get your heart?
Where did I get my heart? The women in my life, I think, you know. They were strong, but they were fair. And they always taught me that the most important assets that I have were not my looks, ironically. It was always my heart and my mind. And I was always taught to just never judge a book by its cover. And I've taken that with me throughout my entire life. And, you know, when you lead with your heart, David,
Yeah.
it gets you in trouble. It gets you in a lot of trouble.
Hey, Zamir. Yeah.
And, you know, my tattoo I have a sleeve tattoo in Latin that says, wherever you go, go with your whole heart. And now I feel like I need a matching one in Latin, but it's got to say, but don't forget to consult your brain.
Right?
Because they have to work in tandem. You got to use your logic brain and your heart to kind of make a decision together.
Yeah.
If you lead with your brain too much, it can be robotic, and if you lead with your heart too much, you can let emotions rule, and you can be easily triggered. So, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I think empathy is so important. And having a heart to be able to connect with someone, even if you haven't directly experienced what they're going through, to take a moment and put yourself in their shoes and try to understand their pain and their trauma. I mean, we're all healing from something, or we're all fighting our demons one way or the other. And my heart has been, although it's gotten me in trouble, it's done more good than harm, I think.
Right. I mean, well, you use it for so many amazing things, which I will get to later. But I mean, it's interesting because you do have that balance, and that's why I started with the looks, the heart. You know, it's this yin and yang. And what got you in this business, or at least what it seemed like, was make me a supermodel. Is that true?
That really launched me into the industry of modeling and just into the public eye in general in a way that I had never had the opportunity before. I had smaller little moments, as we all do in our career. We have opportunities that we're so grateful for, but that really put me on the map, and I think gave me a platform and gave me power that, I have to be honest, I took for granted at times along the journey, and I didn't even realize my own power.
Wow.
if that makes sense.
What is your power?
Well, I guess when I say power, it's like, it's a combination of things. I think when you wake up and realize that there's a governance system that favors you for one reason or another, you know, our current system favors men over women. It favors white complexion skin over people of color and black people. It's just been designed that way. So over the years, I've been awakened to that power, which is not saying that it's bad or good. Like power is, I guess power is only as good as and effective as how you choose to use it, you know. And then I had the power of being on TV and being seen by millions of people around the world. But if you don't know how to wield it, or you're wielding it for the wrong reasons or for selfish purposes.
And you experienced all of that?
Yeah, I've experienced the whole gamut of it, you know, because when you go from not being known to becoming a household name, and when you get off of a show after 3 months of being live on national television and everybody knows who you are, you can't like walk around without someone wanting to run up and either say hello, give you a hug. You've been coming into someone's house for 3 months, but you don't know who they are, but they don't feel like there's any barrier. So they just want to, you know, pounce.
And you having a big heart sometimes let them pounce a little too hard.
Yeah, I didn't really know my healthy boundaries, you know. And as a recovering people pleaser, I've had to learn, especially, this is Socks.
Socks!
Socks when it comes to say hello.
Hi, Socks. Mwah.
Yes, this is my vampire. He likes to suck on necks.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite part.
Yes. Mwah. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, Socks. Mwah. Gorgeous eyes.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Oh,
You're a good boy.
I saw those cheekbones. I didn't think cheekbones.
I'm America's Next Profile Model.
I was gonna sing "When I Fall in Love."
Oh, isn't that a great song?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just, you know, David, I've you know, the song that comes to mind is I've seen life from both sides now.
Yes.
Because I've been on both sides of the same coin now in so many different respects. Because, again, going back to being thrust out into the limelight and having this power and this presence. And, you know, I used it for good. And I'm sure there were times when my ego took over. You know, I'm sure there are times when my ego took over. Not maliciously or intentionally, but the ego just sometimes decides that it's going to be in the driver's seat, and you just have to kind of learn how to navigate it. And over the years, you know, the psychological narrative that goes on in your brain once you've reached a mountaintop as big as getting onto national television in such a way, you're always comparing everything you do to that. You're like, will I ever be able to get to that Everest again? Will I ever be able to surpass that Everest, you know, and reach greater heights? And
yeah. And then it's the definition of those greater heights.
Yes.
The definition we have in our own heads.
And you start to really ask yourself and start defining for yourself, what is the meaning of success? You know? And I look back now and I'm so grateful for everything, all the blessings I've been given and all the opportunities. And sometimes I feel like I've lived 100 years in 37 because I've had such enormous opportunities to have meals with the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich. I've been in rooms around the world that, just by nature of my opportunities, they've given me these exciting adventures to learn and grow and be around different cultures and mindsets. And I've learned a lot about myself.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm listening to you, and of course I've known you for a while, but I'm listening to you and I'm going, my God, he'd be an amazing writer. And I know you wrote a book called Behind the Smile.
I am in the middle of writing it. It is a process. And that's one of the things I've had to learn too is books have to be written in their own time. It's never on our schedule.
Oh, yeah.
And to be honest with you, if I forced myself to get it done on my timeline, which would have been like 2 years ago, on my original timeline, it wouldn't be the book that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because in the last couple of years, I've grown and I've seen things from both sides of the coin, and I'll be able to accurately share it. I want people to read my book and not want to end it all. I don't want it to just be a victim kind of sob story. I want it to have a full spectrum of the highs and lows. And I want people to be able to just pick up and read any chapter and take a little nugget of wisdom from that chapter and apply it to their life, you know, so that it can be a tool in their toolkit, you know, to help them in similar situations. But it's difficult when you're writing about your life, especially when some of the subject matter is so fresh.
Right.
It can rehash a lot of your traumas that you haven't quite healed from yet. And then you have to figure out how to navigate it as it's bubbling up in real time. How do you?
Right. Well, you know, that's so interesting because when I took acting from Corey Allen, I almost said mentor, and he said, don't call me that. The wonderful acting teacher and director and actor. But when you said that, I thought, you know, I just thought, you know, not to box yourself in, you know, not to, you know, I went with the Corey thing and then it just went, you know what that it does sometimes? It's just, yeah.
Come back.
Yeah. Well, to say right before I said Corey, what were you telling me again?
I was just talking about how, like, when you're writing in real time about things that you haven't necessarily healed from completely.
Right. Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you. 56 years. It went, I'm not going to let you get. So, yes, healed from it. And he would say, you know, when we went through the certain exercises we went through, he said, you know, and sometimes we did it, but it would show it was a little too fresh. He said sometimes it's better to wait a couple years, 2 or 3 years, before you go back to that sense memory and use it. Because it could get you, you know, then it's like, okay, I need 5 therapy appointments this week, not just an acting class.
Yeah. I mean, and when you're doing that shadow work as an actor and you're having to play a shadowy character or a role and you're tapping into real life experiences in your own life, there's no telling where it's going to lead you, especially if you're very method and you're tapping into old wounds. It's great to serve the purpose of bringing the character to life, but then you, the person, not the actor, have to then deal with the consequence.
And you know, learn how to get out of it.
It's not hard to see why, like, the likes of Heath Ledger and stuff like that playing the Joker, you know, how it could lead you down that road. I remember talking with Alec Baldwin. I was supposed to work with Alec in a play in the Hamptons, Equus, and I was hired to be one of the horses along with my then boyfriend, and I had to turn down the role because I was going on the road to do my Playgirl tour of Pride festivals, and we were raising money for marriage equality and LGBT centers and stuff like that. So I had these 2 great opportunities in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was gracious enough to be able to say thank you for casting me, but I have to move in this direction. But since my boyfriend at the time was still doing the show, I actually went and saw the show 3 times, and Alec played the part of the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And he shared often how difficult it was for him to shake it after he was done, you know, every night, because he had to go there into the darker spaces, the shadowy spaces.
Right. You mentioned something, and I'm going to throw the word back to you. Playgirl.
Yes.
What comes to your mind when you hear that word?
I think of that cold day that we shot on top of the roof of the Grace Hotel in New York City at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm butt-ass naked on top of this hotel roof, and everybody's going to work, and they're seeing me butt-ass naked on the rooftop because they're all in high-rise buildings with clear glass windows, right. And everybody's up against the window with their cup of coffee, and I've got quite an audience.
Oh my God, that's a movie in itself. You know, they end with you, and then they focus on all these people against. How is that? How is not everybody could stand on the roof of a New York building naked in front of the whole city? How do you do that?
Well, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that there wasn't a bit of fear, but I felt the fear and did it anyway. You know, so much of doing that shoot was so liberating for me.
Yeah.
Because when you put yourself in that vulnerable situation, and mind you, I was grateful enough to be a part of the producing team on that shoot. So I surrounded myself with people in the industry that I know and love, and I felt comfortable even being naked around if I was going to be around people naked.
Yeah.
But it was very liberating. It was very freeing, and part of the whole message of the Playgirl shoot itself and the article, because, you know, people read Playgirl for the articles.
Yeah, of course.
I talked about dropping my labels for Playgirl because so many times we lead with our labels, whether it's man or woman or black or white or Christian or Jew or, you know, old or young or rich or poor, or even our clothing brand labels that we go and spend a lot of money on. You know, we walk into the room and those labels speak for us. But when you strip all of these titles and labels and everything away, at the heart of that shoot was really to talk to people about just the vulnerability in the human body and the human spirit and just being free. I mean, we were born into the world naked, you know. For all intents and purposes, the Creator wanted us to be naked, and, you know, we've created such a dirty, taboo thing around sexuality and sex. Am I still with you?
Yeah, just your name. It's interesting that you went sort of in the dark. How's that? There he is.
There I am. I put it on Do Not Disturb, but it still decided that it wanted to disturb me.
But it was interesting that it sort of went, you know, sort of dark and with just your name on it, right when you said taboo.
Oh, right.
Ooh.
They're listening to us. They don't want us talking about this stuff.
Well, you know, and it's interesting too how you said part of you had fear.
Yeah, I think there's fear of judgment and fear of what people might say and what they might think. And anytime you're taking a risk in life, people are going to have an opinion on it.
Right.
And you know, to feel that fear and to do it anyway, especially for a people pleaser, to be able to create my art and make my statement, fully aware that people are going to have a reaction to it. Some positive, some negatives, some neutral, you know.
Well, what's the other part or parts about doing it?
In what way do you mean other parts?
And just in the sense, if you wanted to talk about it, about, you say part of it was fear by doing that. And then you must, I mean, by being a model or by being somebody who's open to it, there must be some enjoyment as well.
Yeah, when I got my start in modeling, it was because of my best friend's mom, who was a photographer's assistant, a really well-known photographer that just recently passed away. His name is Victor Skrebneski.
Yeah.
And her name is Grace, and she is very dear to my heart. And I was like a prepubescent, pre-teenager, pock face, pimple face, and we used to spend every summer checking in on Victor's mom, Anna, because she was sick and kind of a shut-in in Chicago. And we would go and check in on her and spend time with her and keep her company. And I would page through her son's photography books. And I just fell in love with the idea of fashion and becoming other people and doing this creative expression. I wanted to do that. I wanted to create. And, she could have shot me down and said, you're not going to be able to do that or this, that, and the other. But she said, Ronnie, you can do whatever your heart desires if you want it and you're willing to work for it.
Right.
And she encouraged it. And she took my first photo shoot on the beach. She took me with her camera and gave me some tips. And at the end of the shoot, she said, there's one last thing I want you to know before you go down this path of wanting to get into modeling. And I said, what's that? And she's like, well, people are going to want things from you. And you're going to have to know how to draw your line in the sand. And she took her toe and she drew her line in the sand. And she said, you're going to have to know what's comfortable for you and what's not. And if people want you to do something that you're not comfortable with, you're going to have the strength to say no. So she already knew what the industry was like for guys and gals, when it came down to power and money and sex and human desires of the flesh and all that kind of stuff. So in a lot of ways, she was trying to plant the seeds of protecting me in the very beginning.
That's beautiful to have somebody like that at the beginning to this is great for you. Just, yeah.
Yeah, supportive and also words to the wise, to be careful. And I'm grateful she did because, working in this industry, I came across a lot of opportunities, if you will, to advance my career and to get to heights that most people would only dream of because of my looks. And I knew where my line was in the sand and I never crossed it. And trust me, there were opportunities that were very difficult to say no to.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about, we live in a material world and people are offering you hundreds of thousands of dollars and condos and homes and clothing and jewelry, and all you have to do, wink, wink.
It's interesting too. The other part of you that just came into my mind was your beautiful soul. You have we talked about the looks, we talked about the heart, but it's that soul and it's that core that you stuck to, that you said, hey, like you, or the line, the line in the sand is your.
And I think it's important to mention that I have no feelings one way or the other on people that decide whatever their line is.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't put anyone down for those decisions. That's their decision, But for me, I always viewed it as I'd be putting a price tag on myself in a way that I wasn't comfortable with. And if I attained success and riches and material things, would I really feel proud and accomplished, or would I feel bad about it later? And I'm one of those people that doesn't like to live with regrets, even if that means I take the risk when everyone else says don't do it. I'd rather take the risk and fall and make the mistake and know better, or at least know that I explored it, than look back one day and be like, I wonder what would have happened if, or I wish I could have done that. You know.
Thank you for that. You're saying so many things today that I'm thinking of stuff that happened in my life. That so one time I did this job, and afterwards I regretted it because I actually hurt myself on the job. But when I look back at it, it was part of life. And I'm blessed in the way that I look at stuff and see the positive out of it. It might take a little while to get there. And same with like the project, your book. I mean, I've been working on this documentary, My Next Breath, for years.
Yeah.
But it's not, when it happens, it happens.
Yes. And I will say, to piggyback on that, and I think it's important for anyone that may stumble upon this video at some point, to know that when you are in that place and you've maybe not met a deadline that you set for yourself, or you thought you would, especially when it comes to art projects and projects that you're pouring your heart and soul into, I fell into the shame hole. And what I mean by that is, because I didn't hit my marks, I started shaming myself for not hitting them.
What do you mean hitting your marks?
Like, you know, with my book project, I said I'd be done by a certain date, and I didn't hit it. And so then I started getting deeper and deeper into this shame hole where I was shaming myself for not meeting the mark, instead of being a little more gentle with myself and practicing self-care and understanding the artistic process isn't always cut and dry that way, especially when it comes to sharing so vulnerably. And the shame got in the way, because shame doesn't do any good for anybody. You know, there's a difference between shame and healthy sense of guilt, or having a conscience. Because a healthy sense of guilt or a conscience just means that you have some morals and ethics about you, or, you know, it'll light the fire under you just to get things done. But shame is almost self-serving and self-sabotaging, because then you get used to that shame feeling, and you don't have to try harder. You can, you know, get that pint of ice cream and stay in bed, you know, longer than you should. You know, everybody deserves a pity party, but it should be a day, not like months.
Right?
Right?
Oh my God.
And so I got so used to this pattern of shaming myself that I wasn't being productive and getting anywhere closer to my goal. I was so focused on beating myself up. And listen, the rest of the world out there and everybody dealing with their own issues and projecting that shit onto us. Yeah. There's enough people out there that want to tear you down. Even if it's not purposefully, they're still going to do it. So why am I doing it to myself before I even leave the house?
Right. Right.
So I had to learn how to get out of that shame cycle, which isn't easy to do. You know.
Now, you talked about goals, and I guess it seems like one of your goals was to from modeling to go into acting, and you've done. I mean, Scrooge and Marley.
Yeah, that was fun.
What is it? Into the Lion's Den, Kissing Darkness. So you got to play all these different fun roles. I love the one, and you played the Tin Man, and it wasn't in the Wizard of Oz, but I love that.
With Kenneth Mogan, yeah. That was such a fun shoot, you know. It was such a great cast of characters and production team, and getting to wear that suit, you know, it was designed by an incredible engineer who also was going into animating like dinosaurs and other creatures in movies and stuff like that. So he designed this down to a T. It was so amazing, the craftsmanship that went into creating that Tin Man outfit.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, modeling was my segue into acting. And actually, it was Playgirl that got me my first role in Eating Out Drama Camp, because they took wind of my name from that. And then I auditioned via Skype while I was living in New York. And I came to LA to shoot that film for 30 days. And that's when I was like, yep, gotta move west. Done with New York. Got bit by the bug. Gotta make movies, you know.
Do you miss New York? Or do you enjoy living here?
You know, I miss Chicago and I miss New York for, you know, different reasons. But I'm such an outdoors type of person. The fact that I can be out in 70-degree weather in the middle of winter while everyone else is covered in snow, sleet, and ice and all that. Yeah. I miss it, but I'm happy in LA. Overall, you know, quality of life, being out in nature.
Yeah.
Being
yeah. You know, I went back to the Tin Man, and of course the Tin Man is looking for a heart.
Yeah.
But you have such a big, beautiful heart. You did that artwork, Open Heart. Whenever you sing with your heart, and you try to make a difference with so many different organizations like the Friends movement.
Yeah, you know, it's I think when you know pain, the pain of being different, the pain of being bullied, the pain of being ostracized, when you know that pain, you can take one of two paths. You can either continue the cycle of pain and pay it forward, or you can outgrow the generational curse of that pain and start new patterns of behavior. And for me, it was always about, I wouldn't wish this kind of hurt on anyone. You know, the pain that I went through as a kid being bullied, the bullies played monkey in the middle, in the middle of winter time in Chicago. So they would take my shoes and socks off and my feet would be like ice blocks. And they thought it was funny, you know. And all throughout high school, I was bullied by the jocks. And I thought maybe if I talked to their cheerleader girlfriends, they'd cut them off sexually and then they'd learn their lesson and be nice to me. Only to realize 2 years after I graduated high school that they were having sex with each other in the locker room.
Oh!
And then I didn't know whether I was just jealous that they didn't include me in the fun, or if I was just pissed off because they were so mean to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything that I've ever done to leverage my public persona has always been to try to help people and causes that I cared about, whether it was homelessness or HIV or LGBT rights or cancer. And with the Friend movement, of course, it was super personal because I had firsthand experience with it. And it's been a journey, you know, to start an organization and to ride the highs and lows and to have the successes and to know the failures. And it takes on a life of its own, because when we started Friend Movement, we thought, we were going to go on a righteous path of telling people how they should be better friends to other people, right? You think you're going to go and be, you know, get on your high horse and tell people how to behave. And then we realized as the mission evolved and our experiences taught us that in its next incarnation, like before COVID hit, my co-founder and I were getting ready to relaunch it.
Right. What, Friends Movement?
Friend Movement. Yeah. And COVID hit, and then that kind of put a damper on it. But we were getting ready to launch it in such a way, and we will launch it in such a way, that instead of focusing on preaching to people about how they need to be better friends to them, to other people, we're going to provide events, services, programs, speaking events, opportunities for people to get the resources and the tools they need to be better friends to themselves, you know, because that's really where it starts. That's where the healing starts. That's where you can gain that, to know your voice and gain your confidence and work on healing from your past trauma. And then when you do that for yourself, when I finally got to a place where I was able to embrace my own humanity. I didn't have to be perfect. I could forgive myself for my sins and my imperfections. When I finally got to that place, I then had room to extend that same courtesy to other people instead of shaming them or putting them down or telling them how horrible they were, boxing them in a corner. I had empathy and compassion and allowed them to be human and to grow and to improve and be better. Because sometimes we hold people in prisons of who they used to be. And it's really unfortunate because someone might hurt us, not intentionally or intentionally because they're hurting. And then 3 years later, we're still holding them in that same prison of who they were 3 years ago, you know. So I've learned a lot about forgiveness, and forgiveness is difficult. But I knew that if I wanted forgiveness from the people that I've hurt, from my own place of pain, then I had to start forgiving others. And it's not easy because you have to slay your own ego to do it. And that ego is so big and so powerful at times, and it needs to thrive. It needs to convince you of this narrative where you're the victim and you don't deserve that treatment and no one should ever do that to you. And it keeps wanting you to be repeating that narrative. But when we are able to break that narrative of the victim and become the hero in our story, and when we realize that most of the crap people do to us has nothing to do with us. Wow, what freedom that is. When you realize that
Right.
How they treated you was all about them.
Exactly.
You know? And I wish I would have known that as a kid. I wish I would have known that that bully that was being mean to me, it wasn't about me. It was about maybe they were being abused at home, or they were jealous because I was open with my sexuality and they couldn't be, or whatever that reason was. You know?
Right. What do you want the most at this moment in your life?
I think what I want the most at this moment in my life is to call my power back every day. You know, we don't realize it, but we give a lot of our power away. And it happens, it chips away slowly but surely. You know, we give our power away to the president. We give our power away to Congress. We give our power away to the media. We give our power away, you know, to friends and family that then wield it over us because we don't know how to call that energy back. And it's like, I think Eleanor Roosevelt has a quote, and I'll probably butcher it, so I'll only paraphrase it, but it's like, no one has the power to make you feel less than or inferior unless you give it to them. You give them permission to do that. So in this moment, I am wanting to call back my energy, and I'm setting my healthy boundaries, and I'm picking and choosing very carefully where I invest my scarce resources. So my time, my energy, my money, all of that, it's all being invested with purpose and intention. It's not sporadic. It's not from a place of wanting to please anybody or get someone's affection. And let me tell you, as a recovering people pleaser, if there's anyone out there in a similar situation, one of the hardest things to come to terms with about people pleasing as a people pleaser is to realize that people pleasing is one of the most selfish things you can do. Because people pleasing is about micromanaging people's perspective of you. So it's all about how people view you rather than just showing up organically and letting people like you or not like you, and who cares? You know? So you're doing this song and dance and throwing sequins in people's eyes, and you're doing everything the right way that you think people want. But in the long run, you burn out. You realize that you've pleased everyone else, maybe. And at the end of the day, you didn't please yourself. And you were exhausted, and you're harboring a lot of resentment because you feel like you've wasted a lot of time not caring for yourself. But, you know, when you think of yourself as a decent human being or a good person or someone with a good heart, to come face to face with the fact that people pleasing is selfish, oh my God, talk about the battle of the ages.
Wow.
What do you mean I'm a selfish person? I'm not a selfish person. What?
Yeah. Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
This has been great. I learned a lot about myself during this. You know, I'm all about inclusion and bringing everybody together, and it's about the acknowledging the similarities and the differences, and finding more and more there are more similarities than we know, and things that we've all gone through. So it's, yeah.
And I love that about you. I really do. I think it's one of your many gifts to be able to put people at ease when they're with you. You embrace people for where they're at, who they are. I don't think I've ever seen you bat an eye or say a disparaging remark. Now, that's not to say that you're not human and you don't have these thoughts ever, but I've never known you to be someone that does anything other than just let people be who they are, and you ask questions instead of assuming, you know. And that's one of the greatest gifts I think we can give people in this life, is just to be who they are in that moment, where they are, processing whatever they're processing, overcoming whatever it is that they're overcoming. And in my best friendships that I have today, that's what we do for each other. And we hold each other accountable. Hey, you're being a dick today. Why are you being such a dick? You're not a dick, but why are you behaving like one, And it's always from a place of love and with the intention of their best interests, right? So when I think of you and I think about the work you do and all the beautiful people that you have in your life, and I feel very grateful that you call on me to include me.
Well, I have to say, they're all watching today. We have over 100 students now from performing arts.
Wow.
No, it's just it's growing and growing, and they love when you come in. Oh, Ronnie's coming in today.
Well, I love them. Talk about learning about myself. Whenever I spend time with your crew at Performing Arts West, I learn more about myself. And I learn how to be a better human and a better friend just by hanging out with everyone there,